This kick can decide it all. The nation holds its breath. Yes, we're there!
Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about an Irish defender slash midfielder, Karl McHugh. He's a 30-year-old and he currently plays in India in the Indian Super League. So Karl is from a well-tucked village, a bit of a scenic beauty called Lettermacaward in Donegal, and he started playing at underage level for local side Dunglow Town, and he also played GAA, which is Irish football to anyone outside of Ireland, at a good high level in underage before joining English team Reading on a 3-year scholarship as a 16-year-old in 2009. So in 2011, as an 18-year-old, he signed his first pro contract with Reading and went on loan to Swindon Submarine, who are a non-league English team, and also Dundalk in the League of Ireland, one of the top teams in Ireland. However, at the end of his 1-year pro contract with Reading in the summer of 2012, he was released by Reading. In August of the same summer, 2012, he signed with Bradford City, and that's on a 1-year deal as a 19-year-old, making his debut for the then League 2 side on the 28th of August 2012. So that's when his career really kicked off as a 19-year-old at a very decent high level in England. He signed for another year in July 13 for Bradford, who were now in League 1. He had spoken about his lack of game time while at Bradford, but in all he did make a respectable 30 appearances, scoring twice in 2-year spell at Bradford, which, perhaps in hindsight for a 19, 20-year-old is good for a young pro starting out in his career. It's definitely better than some 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds are at that stage. So, perhaps at that stage he was felt he should be further ahead of where he was, which again is a good testament, shows he has that drive and isn't just sitting on his laurels and sitting happy to be where he is at. He wants to progress, and that's a sign of a trait that's throughout his career. So yeah, he probably felt he should be doing better, and that nonetheless, he left Bradford at the end of his contract. The now 21-year-old signed for Plymouth Argyle in League 2 on the 16th of June 2014. So as a 21-year-old, he's already been at Reading, Bradford, you could say Dundalk, although that was a loan, and now Plymouth Argyle. So, very good progression for an only 21-year-old. So he signed for Plymouth Argyle, as I said, 16th of June 2014 on a 2-year deal. He went on at that stage to have his best time to date, playing 81 times and scoring 5 goals during his 2 seasons with them, and he was an integral part of their team. Again, however, like at Bradford, you'd imagine Plymouth definitely wanted to keep him, and it was reported he had agreed, even signed an extension to his contract with them. But on the expiry of his original contract, the now 23-year-old moved to the Scottish Premiership with Motherwell on a 2-year deal on the 5th of July 2016. So, yeah, again, forward progression there, and again shows the drive behind them. He was obviously on a decent contract at Plymouth. He was a respected first teamer, but he still felt he should be, there was better opportunities there, and he went from the 4th division basically in England to the top division in Scotland. So yeah, very, very good progression, big jump, and you can't really blame him for moving to even if he had an agreement with Plymouth, you can't blame him for changing his mind. You know, he couldn't turn that down, really. Like, anyone would have done the same. It was just, especially at 23, you know, it's about your career at the end of the day, and he had to make that decision for himself. At Motherwell, he again became an integral part of the first team. He was a first teamer for Motherwell, a top Scottish Premiership player, and in June 17 becoming the Motherwell captain. After his first year with Motherwell, he signed a new 2-year deal just before he became captain on the 27th of July 2017. Actually just after he became captain, I think. And in all, he represented Motherwell 82 times, scoring 3 times. For his final season with Motherwell, the 18-19 season, he actually made the unusual decision to relinquish the captain's role, because he felt it was better for the team above anything, and also himself. He felt his own game was suffering. I'm not sure that was a feeling felt within the team or by the manager, because it came as a shock to them. But again, it's a testament to him. He has high standards for himself. He felt, you know, he wasn't doing the club justice, and also he could be playing better for the club if he wasn't the captain. So it's an unusual move. Most people, that's, you know, a step down, and it's not something people give up themselves. The captaincy, you know, might be if a new player comes in, or a new manager comes in and wants to change things. But in this case, it was him that made the decision. And again, another testament to his character, that, you know, he could have easily just sat there and stayed as the captain. But, you know, it wasn't affecting his, you know, he was still playing, and it wasn't the fact that they were only playing him because he was the captain, because when he wasn't the captain, he continued to play with them. So, yeah, but again, fair play to him. Shows what type of individual you're dealing with, really. Yeah, there you have it. Yeah, so after 3 years at Motherwell at 26, and in general, that's coming into a player's prime, which in Carl's situation was week in, week out football, which he'd already been getting for years. But at the top division in Scotland, he made the unusual, you would have to say again. So, you know, he makes difficult, brave decisions that some people might think is a strange one. But obviously, he's a smart guy. He's making the decisions for himself, his career and his life, and his family. So he made the decision to move to India, when you'd imagine he could have renewed his, well, I mean, I don't think there's any question, he could have renewed his contract at Motherwell. He could have moved to another top Scottish team. He could have moved back to England, or even somewhere else in Europe, you know, perhaps even like the MLS, or, you know, somewhere else. But India would have been down the list, you'd imagine, of places to go for a player in his position. But he chose India, which would be, again, an unorthodox move, but one that obviously, which the player himself felt was best for him in his career, and probably he was getting a good financial package on offer too. So in 2019, May 2019, he moved to ATK, a team that will be known in Ireland as the last port of call for Robbie Keane before he retired from playing. Robbie Keane played in 2018 for them. So just a year later, McHugh turned up there. Carl went on to score on his debut for ATK, and he's remained in India ever since. So he's been there for the guts of 4 years. You'd have to say he would be playing, he perhaps will be playing at a higher level in Europe. Again, you'd imagine that's a foregone conclusion. But Indian football is improving. Also, he has been, really a roaring success in India for the last 4 years. He's been there, and he's a bona fide superstar for the biggest club in India, which he's at now. We'll get to that. But and he's playing his home games in an 85,000 stadium. And I know people think football isn't big in India. There's a lot of people in India, but there is a lot of people like football in India, are crazy about it. Obviously, cricket would probably be their number one sport, but there's still a fanatical support for football as well. Just because of the amount of people that are in India. So anyway, his first season ended early due to injury, but he still picked up a league title as ATK won the league. So in his absence, he still picked up a league winners medal, his first top division title win. It's a final system they have there. So in 2020, ATK merged with the Giants Mohun Bagan, who are India's most successful historically team and the biggest team, and have just won the league final this season, so back in March there. So they are the current champions. He's played 62 times in India, scoring 4 goals, during which he has been at ATK and then ATK Mohun Bagan. So another successful period in his playing career. And again, the top division in India, the top team in India, you'd have to say probably his most successful as a player individually for himself. He has stated he has 2 years left on his contract with the club, and you'd imagine he's definitely going to be there for the 2 years, and he feels vindicated for the move. Maybe he initially thought it was a risk, but life's about taking risks. But on the financial side, I'm sure it's been a good move for him, but also the numerous experiences he's had. As I said, he's a champion, 2 league title wins in India in the top division, playing in an 85,000 seater stadium, playing for the biggest team in Indian history, current champions. You can't really say it's been a bad move. It's obviously been a very good move for him. He mightn't have had that same success if he had stayed in the UK, for example, perhaps. So, yeah, it's been a very good move. On the international stage, he's yet to represent the senior Irish team, but he has represented Ireland at various youth levels, I believe, under 16s, under 17s, 19s and 21s. He's also captain Ireland at 17s and I think 16s level. Though it may seem at 30 years of age and playing in India, which is the other side of the world and not something that's an eye is kept on over here, it's probably unlikely you'd imagine that he's going to represent Ireland at senior level. I would never say never, but it's unlikely, you'd have to say, while he's in India. Perhaps he might get an opportunity to represent India at international level. Like he is a top star at their top team. He's been there for 4 years. He's a well-known star in India. And if he could get residency, Indian passport, if they approached him or he approached them, also all their international players play in the Indian Super League. So it's not a question of level, it's not a question of... it's more a question of if there's interest there from him or them, but more importantly, the bureaucracy of it. So the red tape and the paperwork and getting across the line. There's no foreign nationals play for India, and the main stumbling block for that is because, firstly you have to get an Indian passport, which I'm sure, maybe in India that's a bit more difficult than in other countries, but it's difficult anyway in a country to get a passport. But the main thing is India has this rule that you can only have an Indian passport. So if you're an Indian national and you're somewhere else in America or Ireland or wherever you are, and you want to get that country's passport, you have to renounce your Indian citizenship, and vice versa. If you're a foreign national and you want an Indian passport, you have to renounce your own citizenship, your own passport. So basically, Carl would have to give up his Irish passport, which, again, no offence to India, an Irish person, you know, we like to think we're nationalistic, but it's not about that, really. It's about, are you going to give up your own Irish passport to play international football if the opportunity arose for a few years? Like, he's 30, so he's probably, I'd say, got about another 5 years left. So, you know, is he going to give up his Irish citizenship to play international football for India? Or would anybody give it up, their citizenship, to play for another country? It's extremely unlikely in the majority of cases, but in Carl's case, highly unlikely. But, you know, maybe if like, it definitely puts India, international football, the national team in India, at a disadvantage, because the majority of other countries around the world do take in players from other countries to help improve the standard of their international football. They all do it, like, you know, all the top teams like Spain, Italy, they've all had, you know, foreign nationals. Ireland does it, of course, but we're not a top team. But I mean, at the highest level, countries do it, and at India's standing, that kind of level, countries do it too, to help improve the standard of their international football. So it's definitely putting India at a disadvantage not to allow foreign nationals, but it would be something that would perhaps already need to be in the pipeline. In Carl's instance, you know, that Indian football was going to make that change, to make maybe perhaps an exception for football, to allow foreign nationals to get an Indian passport and hold dual citizenship. So again, I don't know the ins and outs of Indian bureaucracy and Indian governments and Indian football. Perhaps that's something in the background that they're working on. If it is, Carl could be a trailblazer and would be, you know, of interest to Indian international football, you'd imagine. But again, only if that's in the pipeline. If it's not, then that's not an avenue he could go. So what does the future hold for Carl? Well, he's now 30, so he signed up to the Indian club until May next year or the following year, depending where you're reading. He himself said 2 years, so you obviously say it's 2 years. It's if it was 2 years, it's be certain that he's going to stay in Indian football, in the Indian league. But at which point he would be 32. So at that stage, at 32, you know, he's still got years left in him, depending on injuries, of course, and where he is in his game and all. But 32, he could still go somewhere else. Perhaps he might want to stay in Indian football again if there was possibly an option to play internationally. But if not, he might decide, yeah, listen, I'll go and have one last big experience, big financial package. Perhaps the MLS, perhaps Saudi League is taking off a lot of money over there. Perhaps Australia. Who knows? You know, there's he's not scared to go travel. So it really opens up a lot of options for him. So yeah, at the future is definitely a lot of options left for Carl. He's only 30 now, and again, barring an injury, he could easily go another 5 years. It's been an exciting career to date. There's definitely exciting times to come, and whatever happens, we'll be watching.